Good morning, friends, and welcome to another episode of PB Reads the Bible, another gathering of our small group in this way. Wonderful to be with you this morning. Wonderful to be together in this way, in this fashion. I am very excited by this chance that we always have to gather together in this way. So, what is PB Reads the Bible? Maybe you stumbled upon this and you have no idea what's going on, or it's only your first time joining us. Uh, I'm PB, and yes, I read the Bible. You follow along in your own Bibles, or you just listen if that's what you would prefer. You're certainly welcome to do that. Just want to turn this down, make sure I don't hear myself. I don't want to hear myself. That's too distracting. Uh, and we share life together. I share comments. I share commentary about the passages, try to help us understand context and what's going on, and explain some words that maybe have different meanings than we might think they have. You ask questions, you share your comments, your thoughts, your ideas, and all that stuff is wonderful. So please interact. This is a small group. This is a small group. Oh, and what does a small group mean? A small group means that we share life. That's part of this too. So let us know what's going on. What's giving you joy this morning? What's giving you great joy, and what's weighing you down? And we will keep each other surrounded in our prayers and lifted up before our gracious, amazing, awesome God in that way throughout the week, not just this morning, too, friends. Excuse me. So first thing that you can do to interact, to participate in our small group is romper room roll call. Let me know that you're there. Check in. Use the comment section of the Facebook stream. You could use the comment section of the YouTube stream, but I don't see that, at least not right away. And I usually forget to look. So the Facebook one is the better way, or you can use texting and send me a message through that. 570-351-1619 is my cell phone number. And then whatever it is that's on your hearts that you want to share this morning, like I said, the joys, your heartaches, all your prayer requests, put those in the comment section or send me the text. And any questions or comments that you have, please share them. And you don't have to just say hello to me or check in with me. Make sure you're greeting each other this morning too. We are part of each other's lives. Excuse me, I need a sip of my tea. All right. And so, good morning. Good morning, John and Cindy. You're checking in. And good morning, Bonnie. Was that clouds? Cloudy day? Cloudy day. Chilly day. Downright cold, I'll say. Supposed to warm up a little bit. I wore a lighter jacket because it's supposed to get up to 32 or something like that around here. And wild, wild weather. They're predicting 50s next week. Why? Why? Wild. Amazing stuff. Anyway, so that's enough of that talk. Let's have a prayer. Then I'll make a couple announcements and then we'll move on to our reading for today because we got a lot of work to do, my friends. So let's pray. Gracious, amazing God, we give you thanks for this morning and for this small group known as PB Reads the Bible, and for this amazing, wondrous way in which we're able to connect across distance and across time to be part of this small group. And of course, our numbers are always increased by one because you are present with us, which is even more amazing than the technology that we use. So we thank you for your love and your grace. We thank you for your presence. We ask for your spirit to open our hearts and our minds to whatever it is you would have us receive today. And we ask all of these things in your son, Jesus' name. Amen. Amen, my friends. All right. So we got all that stuff. We got that stuff taken care of, right? We got that out of the way this morning. So announcements. Well, first of all, announcements about PB Reads the Bible. Today, I said we got lots of work because we're doing the last three chapters of Second Kings. What? Yes, we're doing the last three chapters of Second Kings, 23, 24, 25. Getting it. I didn't want to leave anything hanging. I didn't want to leave 1 or 2 weeks, 2 days hanging, 1 or 2 chapters, I should say, hanging before I take a week off. So we're going to do 3 chapters today. Fortunately, none of them is extremely long, so we'll be good. We'll be good. And that's going to be it. And we're going to take at least a couple weeks off. I'm on vacation next week. Then I'm back for a week, but then I leave for North Carolina for a church conference session taking place down there that I've been invited to attend. And this is actually I don't even have to pay for it. So that's always good stuff too. So we're going to be taking off for probably 3 or 4 weeks. In the meantime, I'll try to figure out where we're going to go next. Love to hear from you. If you have a particular book of the Bible that we have not already done, let me know, and we'll take a look at that and see if we can cover that one over the next few next probably several months, because it takes us time to do that. I have to look at the calendar and stuff too and try and plot it out. Maybe we can do, I don't think we've done Mark yet, have we? Have to look. So maybe we'll do a gospel, because it's almost, we'll be heading into Lent and Easter soon. Anyway, my friends, that's neither here nor there. I'll be working on that. Other announcements, though, is that, of course, we have worship on Sunday. Today's Thursday, January 18th. We will be gathering for worship on Sunday, January 21st. We have in person at 8:15 and 10:45. Would love to have you join us in person for either of those worship experiences. But the 10:45 worship is also live streamed, so please join us that way if that's the only way you can do it. Engage in worship with us. We would love to worship together with you. Good morning, Marilyn. Good to be with you this morning as well. One more sip of tea, and then I'll do some reading as we jump in here. Okay, so chapter 22 ended with Josiah being, well, Josiah, chapter 22, the whole chapter, I guess you would say. Josiah is informed that they have found the book of the law, whatever book that might be, excuse me, book of the covenant, whatever that might say in it, and it's read before him, and he's heartbroken, and he tears his clothes. He sends an entourage, he sends envoys to talk to a prophet. And she relays a message from God that, yeah, bad stuff's going to happen to Judah. He said, but tell the king who sent you, the person who sent you, that I have heard him, and I'm going to put it in my words, that I have read your heart, that I have read his heart. Because God sees what's on the inside, and God sees that his sorrow, his repentance, his anxiety, and everything going on with him is true, is honest, it's heartfelt, we would say. And he says, you're gonna rest peacefully. You're gonna rest. You're not gonna live to see all that horrible stuff that's going to take place. Basically, my words. Yeah. All right. So let's pick up from there, 23, because we're gonna be talking about Josiah's reforms. 23. Then the king directed all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem should be gathered to him. The king went up to the house of Yahweh, and with him went all the people of Judah, all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the priests, the prophets, and all the people, both small and great. He read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of Yahweh. The king stood by the pillar and made a covenant before Yahweh to follow Yahweh, keeping his commandments, his decrees, and his statutes with all his heart and all his soul, to perform the words of this covenant that were written in this book. All the people joined in the covenant. The king commanded the high priest Hilkiah, the priests of the second order, and the guardians of the threshold, to bring out of the temple of Yahweh all the vessels made for Baal, for Asherah, and for all the host of heaven. He burned them outside Jerusalem in the fields of the Kidron and carried their ashes to Bethel. He deposed the idolatrous priests whom the kings of Judah had ordained to make offerings in the high places at the cities of Judah and around Jerusalem, Those also who made offerings to Baal, to the sun, the moon, the constellations, and all the hosts of the heavens. He brought out the image of Asherah from the house of Yahweh outside Jerusalem to the Wadi Kidron, burned it at the Wadi Kidron, beat it to dust, and threw the dust of it upon the graves of the common people. He broke down the houses of the male temple prostitutes that were in the house of Yahweh, where the women did weaving for Asherah. Excuse me. He brought all the priests out of the towns of Judah and defiled the high places where the priests had made offerings, from Geba to Beersheba. He broke down the high places of the gates that were at the entrance of the gate of Joshua, the governor of the city, which were on the left at the gate of the city. Pause there. Whew, lots of stuff. So what's taken place? His reforms, he is very actively uh, going back to his, going back, trying to get rid of all the things that Manasseh had done. Remember how bad Manasseh was, and he brought all this stuff in. He's going back. He's going back at least as far as Hezekiah, maybe even farther, like back to David. He's getting rid of all of that stuff. All that stuff. And any tools that were used in worship of Baal and Asherah, he's burning them. We could presume that they were wood, perhaps gold laid over top, some sort of gold or something over top, maybe, but wood. He's burning everything up and then casting the ashes on graves. On graves. He's just getting rid of everything, burning it up, tearing things down, breaking things down. He deposes, we might say, although they weren't kings. So he removes or defrocks the priests who were worshiping these false gods on all the high places on the mountaintops. So he gets rid of them all. Picking up from there, verse 9. The priests of the high places, however, did not come up to the altar of Yahweh in Jerusalem, but ate unleavened bread among their kindred. He defiled Topheth, which is in the valley of Ben Hinnom, so that no one would make a son or a daughter pass through fire as an offering to Molech. He removed the horses that the kings of Judah had dedicated to the sun at the entrance to the house of Yahweh by the chamber of the eunuch Nathan Melech, which was in the precincts. Then he burned the chariots of the sun with fire. The altars on the roof of the upper chamber of Ahaz, which the kings of Judah had made, and the altars that Manasseh had made in the two courts of the house of Yahweh, he pulled down from there and broke in pieces and threw the rubble into the Wadi Kidron. Pause. Now remember, those are the two altars. Those are altars set up in the courts of the temple of Yahweh, and God's temple, Solomon's temple, as we often call it. And those were the places where Gentiles and women would worship. So he's bringing back the opportunity for them to worship the one true living God. Good morning, Maureen. Great to have you with us this morning as well. Didn't miss it. Didn't miss it. Now they've used a word, and they're going to use it again, defile, which of course means to whatever. To defile something means to strip away any possibility, to make it unclean. To make it unclean. Defile, you defiled me, you made me dirty, whatever. So he's defiling all of these places. He's making them unsuitable for worship, so that no matter what, these people can't come back and worship here again in their false ways. So he's defiling any place that was used for false worship, so that the false worship can't return. Picking up 13, the king defiled the high places that were east of Jerusalem, to the south of the Mount of Destruction, which King Solomon of Israel had built for Astarte, the abomination of the Sidonians, for Chemosh, the abomination of Moab, and for Milcom, the abomination of the Ammonites. He broke the pillars in pieces, cut down the sacred poles, and covered the sites with human bones, again defiling everything. Moreover, the altar at Bethel, the high place erected by Jeroboam, son of Nebat, who caused Israel to sin, he pulled down that altar along with the high place. He burned the high place, crushing it to dust. He also burned the sacred pole. As Josiah turned, he saw the tombs there on the mount, and he sent and took the bones out of the tombs and burned them on the altar and defiled it. Pause, because bones would be considered unclean. So, dead bodies. So by placing them on the altar and burning them up there, he's defiling the altar. According to the word of Yahweh that the man of God proclaimed when Jeroboam stood by the altar at the festival. Pause. So that's like a little hint, a reminder, an echo to what had happened when Jeroboam had built that altar in the first place. That's Josiah. Josiah turned and looked up at the tomb of the man of God who had predicted these things. Then he said, "What is that monument that I see?" The people of the city told him, "It is the tomb of the man of God who came from Judah and predicted these things that you have done against the altar of at Bethel." He said, "Let him rest. Let no one move his bones." So they let his bones alone with the bones of the prophets who came out of Samaria. Moreover, Josiah removed all the shrines of the high places that were in the towns of Samaria, which kings of Israel had made, provoking Yahweh to anger. He did to them just as he had done at Bethel. He slaughtered on the altars all the priests of the high places who were there and burned human bones on them. Then he returned to Jerusalem. Pause. That was pretty gruesome there at the end. He killed a bunch of people as well, all the priests. But you notice what he did. Uh, uh, he and what I shouldn't say, maybe I should say what he didn't do. He didn't restrict. He didn't restrict his revisions, his corrections, his reforms only to the land of Judah. He actually crossed the border, and he did this stuff in Samaria, in the town of Samaria, and in Bethel. Bethel was also northern Israel. Pretty sure anyway, because that's where Jeroboam built that altar, so it must have been in northern Israel. Then, after he did all that, then he returned to Jerusalem. Then he went back south. The king commanded all the people, "Keep the Passover of Yahweh your God as prescribed in this book of the covenant." No such Passover had been kept since the days of the judges who judged Israel, even during all the days of the kings of Israel and of the kings of Judah. But in the 18th year of King Josiah, this Passover was kept to Yahweh in Jerusalem. Moreover, Josiah put away the mediums, wizards, teraphim. Those are household gods. Household gods. You had your own god for your house. Idols, and all the abominations that were seen in the land of Judah and in Jerusalem, so that he established the words of the law that were written in the book that the priest Hilkiah had found in the house of Yahweh. Before him, there was no king like him, who turned to Yahweh with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses. Nor did any like him arise after him. Pause. That's an interesting description of him, and an interesting accolades coming from the Deuteronomistic editor. I find it exceptionally interesting that he never mentions David. Most of the kings in the past, all the kings in the past, if they were good, then he said they walked in the steps of their father David. But ones that were bad say they didn't walk in the steps of their father David. There's no mention of David. They say this, the editor says of Josiah, before him, there was no king like him, nor did any like him arise after him. So he is that sounds to me like the editor is saying he's even better than David was, which is very interesting statement coming from this Deuteronomistic, definitely Davidi editor who likes David so much. Okay, continuing. Still, Yahweh did not turn from the fierceness of his great wrath, by which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. Yahweh said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel. And I will reject this city which I have chosen, Jerusalem, and the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Now, the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, but when Pharaoh Necho met him at Megiddo, he killed him. Pause. So what's taking place? We've got Egypt, and he's going up to see the king of Assyria. Uh, historians, this is a historical thing. Not all the details are here because that's not the important part of Kings. So we're bringing in the history from outside. Historians say that Necho was going up from Egypt to meet with the king of Assyria because they thought that together, joining their forces together, they would be able to prevent the Babylonians, the Babylonian Empire, which is on the rise and taking over everything. But the Necho and the king of Assyria thought that if we work together, we can stop them. We can prevent them from coming into our territory. It didn't work. So we believe, um, but we believe that uh, the reason Josiah went out to meet Necho wasn't to meet him to be nice, but actually that he was going to try to be in a decent alliance with Babylon, that he wanted to look good with Babylon, and he was going out there to try to prevent Necho from getting together with Assyria. But Necho kills him. His servants carried him dead in a chariot from Megiddo, brought him to Jerusalem, and buried him in his own tomb. The people of the land took Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, anointed him, and made him king in place of his father. Pause. Now, notice it's the people of the land, and we think it's people who were uh, probably in league, shall we say, with Assyria and Egypt, because they put somebody forward. He's not the eldest. He's at least the second born son. He's not the eldest son, and they think that they were going to be able to get him. That they were going to be able to get him to help with Assyria rather than with Babylon. Hang on one second. I got a little something I have to take care of quickly. Just have to send a. I apologize, folks. I apologize, folks. Moving on. Moving on. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, just as his ancestors had done. Pharaoh Necho confined him at Riblah in the land. Oh, pause. Yeah, I misspoke. The people of the land were probably in league with Babylon, and they wanted to put him in there. I think. I don't know. I'm not sure. But sounds that way because Necho doesn't like him. Pharaoh Necho confined him at Riblah in the land of Hamath, so that he might not reign in Jerusalem, and imposed tribute on the land of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, son of Josiah, king in place of his father Josiah, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. But he took Jehoahaz away. He came to Egypt and died there. Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land in order to meet Pharaoh's demand for money. He exacted the silver and the gold from the people of the land, from all according to their assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. Excuse me one moment. Sorry, one more text, and that should solve it all. Oh boy, sorry. I'm very sorry about that. A couple things just, well, things aren't going quite right this morning. Oh well, surprise, surprise. All right. So Pharaoh Necho, um, yeah, Pharaoh Necho wanted, yeah, yeah. So all right. So Pharaoh Necho imposed that tribute on uh, Jehoahaz, on Jehoahaz. But what is how does Jehoahaz pay it? By taxing the people. He makes the people pay what he wants, what he wants to have paid, and carts him off. First carts him off to Syria, to Syria. That's where that Riblah. That's where Riblah is, and then he carts him off to Egypt, and he took Jehoahaz away to Egypt, and that's where he died. That's where he died. And Necho then basically deposed him before Jehoahaz died, and he took Eliakim, Josiah's son, Jehoahaz's older brother. Presumably now we're actually at the firstborn. He's 2 years older than Jehoahaz, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim. Now, what's the difference? Sometimes kings took a throne name. They changed their name when they became king. Still a common practice. Still a common practice. Um, when Charles ascended to the throne, they asked what's your name going to be, and he chose to keep Charles, and so he's King Charles the Second, I think. Uh, Second, third, whatever. Same case for Elizabeth when she found out that she was going to be ascending to the throne at the death of her father. She they asked her, what's your name going to be? If you've watched The Crown, you've seen that scene, and she's like confused. What? My name's Elizabeth. What's your throne name going to be? What's your reigning name? She said, Elizabeth. She didn't have to keep it that. She could have changed it to something else. But she liked her name. She had it for a number of years. I might as well keep it. All right. So Eliakim changes his name to Jehoiakim. Similar names, similar names, similar names. And Eliakim means my God will raise up, and Jehoiakim is similar, but it's a little bit different. It's Yahwistic. because it's got that Yahweh in there, Jehoiakim, which means Yahweh will raise, literally Yahweh rather than my God. So it's got that in it. Yahweh will raise. So saying that God, that his allegiance is to God, his loyalty is to God, but Necho has put him in there as just as a puppet king that he would control from Egypt. Picking up from there, Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zebidah, daughter of Pedaiah of Rumah. He did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, just as all his ancestors had done. Pause. So remember, I said Jehoiakim was older than his brother, and I said 2 years, maybe a year and a half, because his brother Jehoahaz only reigned for 3 months, and it was only a little while after that that Necho puts Jehoiakim on the throne. So he is older, but again, evil king. So picking the name is great there, dude, but that's not going to be enough to save you or save the people. So that ends chapter 23. Let's move on to chapter 24. We better get moving. It's already 9:30. Wow. In his days, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came up. Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. Yahweh sent against him bands of Chaldeans, bands of the Arameans, bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites. He sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of Yahweh that he spoke by his servants, the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of Yahweh to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, for all that he had committed, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and Yahweh was not willing to pardon. Now the rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the annals of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his ancestors. Then his son Jehoiakim succeeded him. The king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken over all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the Wadi of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Pause. So Babylon arrives on the scene now, takes center stage in this drama as the ages. Egypt is now virtually nothing. The Pharaoh gives up, stays home, because anything literally outside the bounds of Egypt is now Babylonian possession, and Babylon is coming at Judah to destroy it. The editor sees in this God working in the background, that this is happening because of God's anger at Judah for disobedience. And we have a new king, Jehoiachin. What happens next? Jehoiachin was 18 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta, daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, just as his father had done. At that time, the servants of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came up to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to the city while his servants were besieging it. King Jehoiakim of Judah gave himself up to the king of Babylon, himself, his mother, his servants, his officers, and his palace officials. The king of Babylon took him prisoner in the 8th year of his reign. He carried off all the treasures of the house of Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house. He cut in pieces all the vessels of gold in the temple of Yahweh, which King Solomon of Israel had made. All this, as Yahweh had foretold. He carried away all Jerusalem, all the officials, all the warriors, 10,000 captives, all the artisans and the smiths. No one remained except the poorest people of the land. He carried away Jehoiachin to Babylon. The king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, and the elite of the land he took into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. The king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon all the men of valor, 7,000 the artisans and the smiths, 1,000 all of them strong and fit for war. The king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiachin's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Uh, Zedekiah means my legitimacy is Yahweh. So it's interesting. So, but Mattaniah then he's king, but he's not a rightful king. He's not a rightful descendant, a rightful person to ascend the throne. But the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, has placed him there and carted away the former king, uh, Jehoiachin, and all of his officials and everybody else. Notice who he's taking away: all the people who have political power, governmental power, and all the people that are fit for war, all the people that are strong. He's taking them away. Why? So they can't start anything there in Jerusalem, and probably to put them to work in Babylon, possibly in the military, possibly in other physical labor type things. But he's taking all them away. He's also taking away the artisans and the smiths, all the people that are good with their hands, that are good at building things, that are good at making things, that are good at creating things. So he's taking away the strongest, the best, the brightest, and he's leaving behind the poorest people. He's leaving them behind. For what? To work the land. You people can stay here and do that. And we're going to see that specifically. Picking up. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. He did what was evil in the sight of Yahweh, just as Jehoiakim had done. Indeed, Jerusalem and Judah so angered Yahweh that he expelled them from his presence. Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon, and in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. They built siege works against it all around, so the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. Pause. So Zedekiah begins this rebellion, right? In the 9th year of his reign. Immediately, Babylon responds and lays siege to the city of Jerusalem. Lays siege to the city, builds up things, and that siege lasts until the 11th year. So it's about a year and a half that the siege lasts. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine became so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Pause. And if you read Jeremiah, if you read the book of Jeremiah, that's taking place during this time, during this siege, and under this king. Picking up again from there, verse 4, then a breach was made in the city wall. The king, with all the soldiers, fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls by the king's garden, though the Chaldeans were all around the city. They went in the direction of the Arabah, but the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho. All his army was scattered, deserting him. Then they captured the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah, who passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, then put out the eyes of Zedekiah. They bound him in fetters and took him to Babylon. In the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. Pause. So his top commander, his top lieutenant, his personal leader of his personal bodyguard. Wow. He gets sent to Jerusalem. Special task. Let's see exactly what Nebuzaradan has to do. Picking up verse 9, he burned the house of Yahweh, the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every great house he burned down. All the army of the Chaldeans who were with the captain of the guard broke down the walls around Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried into exile the rest of the people who were left in the city and the deserters who had defected to the king of Babylon, all the rest of the population. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest people of the land to be vine dressers and tillers of the soil. Pause. So even fewer people are now being left behind. Boy, we maybe we left a few too many people here. They're getting a little rowdy. Let's get rid of more, take more away. And even fewer people now are left. However, common practice is that the Babylonian Empire would then bring in people from other places, some of whom were politically power and were being given grants of large grants, blocks, big pieces of land, and a house, a state, and people to work for them. Continuing. Good, we're moving right along. The bronze pillars that were in the house of Yahweh, as well as the stands and the bronze sea that were in the house of Yahweh, the Chaldeans broke in pieces and carried the bronze to Babylon. They took away the pots, the shovels, the snuffers, the dishes for incense, and all the bronze vessels used in the temple service, as well as the fire pans and the basins. What was made of gold, the captain of the guard took away for the gold, and what was made of silver for the silver. As for the two pillars, the one sea and the stands which Solomon had made for the house of Yahweh, the bronze of all these vessels was beyond weighing. The height of the one pillar was 18 cubits, and on it was a bronze capital. The height of the capital was 3 cubits, making it a full 21 cubits tall, which 21 and 10 is about 30, a little bit more than 30 feet high, maybe 32. Continuing. Lattice work and pomegranates, all of bronze, were on the capital all around. The second pillar was the same with the lattice work. The captain of the guard took the chief priest Seraiah, the second priest Zephaniah, and the 3 guardians of the threshold. From the city he took an officer who had been in command of the soldiers, and 5 men of the king's council who were found, in the city. The secretary, who was the commander of the army, who mustered the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found in the city. Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon at Riblah. The king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. So Judah went into exile out of its own land. Pause. We're talking near total destruction of the city of Jerusalem, and almost a ghost town. So few people left. Remember the prophecy, the statement from a couple chapters ago when God says, I'm going to wipe the plate and turn it over, right? Not just cleaning the plate to wipe it off, but then turning it over and shaking it to make sure every last crumb of food has been removed from the plate. That's the kind of destruction that's going to take place in Jerusalem. And it certainly sounds like the Babylonians have accomplished the task. Continuing. That would still be Nebuzaradan, because he's the one that's in charge of this whole project in Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan appointed Gedaliah. Oh, pause. No, the NIV says Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, but oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I misread something there. I skipped something. In verse 21, it does say king of Babylon, so he is the last he that is mentioned. So the king appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, son of Shaphan, as governor over the people who remained in the land of Judah, whom King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon had left. Now, when all the captains of the forces and their men heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah as governor, they came with their men to Gedaliah at Mitzpah, namely Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, Johanan, son of Kareah, Sariah, son of Tanhumath, and the Netophathite, and Jaazaniah, son of the Maacathite. Gedaliah swore to them and their men, saying, "Do not be afraid because of the Chaldean officials. Live in the land, serve the king of Babylon, and it shall be well with you." But in the seventh month, pause. So he's telling them, just live here. Okay, just live here. Bad things are going to happen, continue to happen. It's not going to go well if you try to fight. There's no use fighting. Just live here. Just live here. It works for 7 months. But in the seventh month, Ishmael, son of Nethaniah, son of Elishama, of the royal family, pause. Ah, now we get it. This guy has designs and thinks that it's not right because his royal heritage. Continuing, he came with 10 men. They struck down Gedaliah so that he died along with the Judeans and the Chaldeans who were with him at Mitzpah. Then all the people, high and low, and the captains of the forces set out and went to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldeans. Now, easy for us to miss this. Easy for us to miss this. But notice the irony here. Ishmael and whoever is left with him and the people that are left, whatever, they flee from Judah. And where do they go? They escape to Egypt, the very place that Yahweh had helped them to escape from, the very place they had escaped from generations earlier through the power of Yahweh. They are now they're willingly going back to the place where they had been slaves so many years before. Sorry, picking up from there, verse 27. In the 37th year of the exile of King Jehoiakim of Judah, in the 12th month, on the 27th day of the month, King Evil-merodach of Babylon, in the year that he began to reign, released King Jehoiakim of Judah from prison. He spoke kindly to him and gave him a seat above the other seats of the kings who were with him in Babylon. So Jehoiakim put aside his prison clothes. Every day of his life, he dined regularly in the king's presence. For his allowance, a regular allowance was given him by the king, a portion every day, as long as he lives. End of chapter 25, end of the book of Second Kings. So, many steps left. This new king, Evil-merodach. I closed my book and I don't remember the name. It was too hard to pronounce anyway. A new king is in Babylon. He has taken over from Nebuchadnezzar. Don't know if it was a just, easy, simple transfer of power or if it was an overthrow or what. We'd have to consult some historians to find that one out. The author here isn't concerned, doesn't mention it. That's not their point. But their point is that this king looks kindly upon Jehoiakim. And again, we don't know why, but he is released from prison, elevated to a fairly good place. I mean, he's allowed to eat with the king, which can mean things, yes. And he's given a seat of great honor. So things turned out eventually not too bad for him, but he had to wait a long time through lots of torture and, of course, seeing his children killed and then having that being the last thing he ever saw. Oh my gosh. Well, my friends, that's been great working through Second Kings with you as part of Kings, because we went from First Kings right through into Second Kings because originally they were one book, still are in Hebrew Bibles. And that's going to be it for today for PB Reads the Bible. And yes, last reminder, today is Thursday, January 18th. Hope to see you either in person or online for our worship experience on Sunday, January 21st. Uh, until we meet again, friends, either there or in someplace else. Oh, once again, although for back up a second here, I pray that this has been beneficial to you, that you've learned something, relearned something, that God has spoken to you in some way through what we've shared this morning. As you go about your day, not just today, but every day, every day. Keep those eyes and ears, both physical and spiritual, open to everything that our living, loving, active God is doing in your life and the lives of those around you. When you see it, when you hear it, say thank you, and then tell somebody about it. And so, my friends, until we meet again, be blessed.